in one of the garden spaces that I have surrounded with insect netting, and this year I'm going to be planting my broccoli inside. I'll be planting 2 different varieties of broccoli. I'm going to be planting the broccoli Calabres and broccoli DCiso. I've got my first soil block here, and as you can see there are 2 little broccoli seedlings that have emerged from this soil block. I did plant 2 seeds in each soil block just in case I didn't have 100% germination. Now not all of the seeds germinated, so I'm glad that I did plant the 2 seeds in each block. Because they're still little, I'm going to separate these and plant them individually in the garden. If I didn't do that, I would have to thin them out now, just so the plant didn't have competition and it could grow into a big, healthy, strong plant. When you are dividing plants, it's really important to try not to damage the roots. So just gently separate the roots there. And I've got my 2 broccoli seedlings. It's best to plant broccoli about 35 centimeters apart. However, I'm going to push it a little close, and I'm actually going to plant them 30 centimeters apart in this bed. What I love about soil blocks is that you don't have to disturb the roots when you're planting them into the ground. So this one here only has 1 seedling that has emerged from the soil block, so I don't need to pull this out and disturb the roots. I can plant the soil block directly into the ground. So I've got my first 2 seedlings here about 30 centimeters apart. I'm going to plant this one here over this side about 30 to 35 centimeters apart again. As I was working, I was bumping the basil that's still in the garden bed behind me, and I love the smell of basil. I'm hoping that this is going to survive throughout the winter because it is under some shade cloth, so it's not going to get any frost on it. However, I did also need the garden bed space to plant some more broccoli, so I'm undecided whether I'm going to take it out or leave it in just yet. But for now, I just love the smell of fresh basil. I'm not actually sure what to do with this section. I still have tomato plants here from summer. I had actually trimmed them all back down to the very lowest sucker, and most of them came back really wonderfully. Some of the plants still look pretty healthy, so I think I'll probably pull these out of the ground and cut off the ends and plant them in pots and have them in the greenhouse. So hopefully I can continue the life of these tomatoes, just not in this garden area. I've got my tray of broccoli seedlings, and now I'm going to go over to the other garden. Definitely tell the difference between soil that has had mulch on it and soil that hasn't. With the soil that I put sugarcane mulch on just a couple of weeks ago, the soil is really nice and moist underneath the mulch, which makes it a great environment for earthworms and lots of bugs that are good for building up the health of the soil. We've got all of the broccoli seedlings in the ground, and in total there are 25, so we'll see how they go. They do have drip irrigation. I do need to mulch around a couple of them, but we'll give it a week and we'll see how they're looking. A couple of weeks ago we planted our garlic in this bed, and every day we've been walking past and noticing more and more garlic starting to pop up, so it's really exciting. None of this garlic had started sprouting when we planted it, and this is the first time that we had bought it from this particular farmer, so we weren't sure how it was going to go. I'd say probably about 50% of it so far has sprouted, which is really exciting. Here's a little one just coming up now. I planted them about 15 centimeters apart. So we've got one here and we've got one here. So it means there should be one coming up here. Let's move the mulch and see if it's started to sprout yet. There we go. That is a little garlic that has just started sprouting. Cover that back up with mulch, and when it's ready it will come up through the mulch. Let's see again. I've got one here and I've got one here. There should be one coming up around here. Let's see. Oh, there we go. A little garlic. Let's go one more time. I've got one here and I've got one here. There should be one here. Let's see if we can see a garlic. Oh, I can't see anything yet. Maybe this one hasn't started sprouting. Oh, there you go. It was just not quite in the right spot, but there it is, a little garlic. And we've got a nice worm here too. This soil, oh there you go, there's a couple of worms. Wow, I'm really pleased with this soil. Let's cover that back up. So I just looked in 4 different spots, that 4 different gaps I should say, and all of them had little garlics that had just sprouted but they hadn't broken through the mulch yet. The pumpkin vine is on its way out now. As you can see, it's looking pretty dead. So I thought I would just harvest some little pumpkins that are probably ready. They could stay on the vine for a little bit longer, but I've got some over there that have started splitting. Now I'm not sure if it's because we've had a sudden change in temperature and water as well. We had a lot of rain, and the splitting seemed to happen after we got that big amount of rain, so I'm just wondering if that sudden increase made some of them split. We've had damage to some of the plants, and these pumpkins aren't looking the best. You can tell that at the end of season pumpkins, there's actually some aphid damage on here too, so I'll just brush that off. Otherwise, it's a good little pumpkin. I can actually see there's an aphid on the stem here. You may not be able to see it. It's a really tiny one. I'm just going to squish it with this. If you have experienced aphids, then you know how much gardeners hate aphids. They just are so invasive and they can multiply really quickly. So if you see a couple of aphids, it's best to try and deal with them straight away. Don't just put it off, otherwise when you come back again the next day, there will be even more and they can decimate plants really quickly. As you can see, there are ants alongside the aphids, and that's because they have a symbiotic relationship of sorts. The aphids secrete this liquid that the ants like to eat. So where you'll have aphids, you'll often have ants protecting the aphids. This one definitely could have been on the vine a bit longer. It's not as dark as the other ones and the stem is still really green, but the vine is just looking really bad, and pumpkins are splitting left, right and center. So I didn't want to risk leaving it on. I guess we'll see how it tastes when we cut it open. The plant is suffering really badly from powdery mildew. As you can see, all of these leaves here, that is not the colour that they are supposed to be. I think it's just succumbing to the end of its life. It went really well. The plant had been in since September and we are now in April. I was cutting off the affected leaves and also spraying the affected leaves with milk and water. However, I think the plant has just reached the end of its life. The mildew has taken over to a point where it's really beyond me doing anything about it. It's on nearly every leaf. This one here is a nice size one. It's not quite ready yet though. The stem is still pretty green and I'm going to risk it and leave it on. But the one right next to it, I mean, it's still a bit green and you can see it's got a split. Nice little harvest of pumpkins. These tomato plants are the Roma tomatoes that I took cuttings of. I also did a video on that one. And these are going to be going into the greenhouse. I think I'll probably plant them out into there next week. I was waiting until it cooled down a little bit. I didn't want the greenhouse to get too hot. So I've got about 40 in total to plant out into the greenhouse. We did have a couple that didn't make it. We had some aphids coming on the plants. You can tell if you have an aphid problem on your tomatoes if the leaves start to yellow, and usually if you see ants, you've got aphids. So there was a big ant presence on some of the plants. The leaves were yellowing. So I did find aphids. I took off as many as I could and then I sprayed all of the leaves with the hose. This is one of the volunteer basil plants and it has just gotten absolutely huge. This variety has been growing in the garden for a couple of years now and I'm not even totally sure what variety it is. But the bees love it. I love having basil in the garden. I love the smell and the pretty flowers, and the bees seem to love it too. I just went inside the greenhouse where I've got my seeds, and the windows have been closed and it is really hot in there and humid as well. I'm not sure if you can see, but this is all condensation on the inside of the plastic. I've had the windows closed because it was rainy and it was quite cold, but it's a nice warm day today, so I'm going to open up the windows and try and cool it down a little bit because it's a bit too hot inside at the moment. When I lift up the windows, I can feel this massive heat just coming out, so I'm glad I'm opening them and letting it cool down. I've got nearly all of my winter seeds in here. I've got different varieties of onion. I've got some broad beans, some cabbage, some silver beet and spinach, and some cauliflower. I still need to plant my peas, my snow peas and my kale. I've ordered them online. I'm just waiting for the seeds to arrive. But I do have some seeds that have germinated. It looks like the cabbage and the cauliflower seeds have germinated, and there's little seedlings that have popped up, which is really exciting. I can see some of the silver beet have popped up as well. Nothing yet from the broad beans or the onions. Onions can take a bit longer to germinate, so I'm not surprised that they haven't popped up yet. I think I'll probably keep the windows open in here just so it doesn't get too hot for the seeds to germinate. Door open, but we've got chickens and ducks that roam around in this area, and I have to put a little fence in front of this first before I can leave the door open. Otherwise they'll probably wander in and scratch up all of the dirt and the mulch and get into my seeds. You may have seen this vine in some of my other videos where I walk through this gate and I've got a duck between the passion fruit vine and the cucamelon vine. Well, it has really exploded. It took a little while to take off, and I didn't see any fruit for quite a while, but if you look beneath the leaves, there is a mass of cucamelons underneath these leaves. You may not have heard of a cucamelon before. It can be described as a mix between a cucumber and a watermelon flavour. So this is how big they get, just really tiny, and they grow on a vine, just like a cucumber does. The flowers are really tiny, as you can see here. They are just like a cucumber plant. They have male and female flowers. And the vine definitely can spread. We had it on an archway trellis in a different area of the garden, and it took over. Let's move some of these leaves and see if we can find some cucamelons. So they hang just like that, and you just break them off. The cucamelon is also known as the mouse melon or the Mexican gherkin. Pretty strange names. Let's head around the other side of the vine and see if we can find some there too. I think I just planted one here, and it's really taken off. If I didn't have this shade cloth here, I dare say it would climb up above here. As you can see, it's going along the fence here. That one there's just a little bit too small. I'm going to head inside and take these pumpkins in, but thank you for joining me today. It's been nice getting some things done in the garden, getting some jobs done as the weather's starting to cool down. I hope I can inspire you all to get into your gardens as well, plant some seeds, plant some plants, grow some food, and try and be a little bit more self-sufficient. But until then, I'll see you next time. Bye!